Descent into Darkness, a Call of Cthulhu campaign. Hello and welcome back to Deathwatch's Call of Cthulhu campaign, Descent into Darkness, Season 4, The City of Pillars, Lost. This is Episode 3, and I am Travis, your keeper for today. Our investigators have begun a long sea voyage, but before we return to that, let's get an introduction from our players. Note, John is not with us today.
Hi, Brandon. I'll be playing Bartholomew Wentworth, and I am on a sea voyage to London, during which I will partake of all luxuries. Decadence.
I'm Chris. I'm playing Charles Stanton, also partaking in a sea voyage, though from a different location.
All right, so before we get into it, this from the February 6th edition of the Arkham Argus. The Age of Adventure continues. Some say the Age of Adventure has come to an end, but I'm here to report on the inaccuracy of that sentiment. Many recent expeditions have made the news, such as the Carlisle expedition of 1919 and the Larkin Merriweather expedition just last year. Perhaps the great adventurers of explorers such as Percy Fawcett have withered in the public's interest, but there is much mystery yet to be discovered. It is this journalist's privilege to report on the beginnings of a new expedition to be financed by none other than the wealthy Dr. Wallace Andrews, a late addition to the Larkin Merriweather journey to Peru. In speaking with the leader of the expedition, Mr. Bartholomew Wentworth, I have learned that the journey is well into the planning stages and will begin in earnest tomorrow, with Mr. Wentworth's departure aboard the RMS Mauritania for Britain. Much secrecy surrounds the intentions and targets of this adventure, but I have learned that it will ultimately travel to a dangerous desert. According to Mr. Wentworth, and I quote, "There are deserts here, there are deserts everywhere." The elusive Mr. Wentworth also described dangerous natives and the possibility of death to all members involved. Furthermore, I have joined the expedition. All avid readers of the Arkham Argus must stay subscribed if they wish to hear more details on this riveting and dangerous journey to parts unknown. I was mining the recording from last week for quotes you would give him for, but all you said was, "There's deserts here, there's deserts everywhere."
Don't forget to like, subscribe, right. Give a thumbs up. Oh, man.
Okay. All right, so it's the morning of February 7th. A Tuesday. The air is crisp and cool at the port, although not quite freezing. It is positively bustling with activity from all the passengers and family waiting to board. The massive RMS Mauritania looms over the dock with its 4 iconic funnels. Here, I'll share a couple of handouts with you guys. Okay, this was a PDF with some images of, what you can expect when you're on the ship. And yours is pretty similar to this one as well, Mr. Stanton.
These things are so dang big.
See nothing.
I posted some links in the chat. I should
Okay.
open some PDFs for you. It's a little easier than loading it into Roll20 itself. So yeah, the massive RMS Mauritania looms over the dock with its 4 iconic funnels. The sheer scale of the thing is a wonder to behold. Porters in crisp uniforms zip around assisting with the check-in process and luggage. They give you a cabin number, and then that goes on the tag for your luggage, which is taken into the hold. And there you can see people that are going into like third class and steerage. They don't go on the gangways up to the upper decks, but they're going in under there, and they're getting like, these porters are like looking in their mouth and like checking their hair and everything like that. It's not a treatment you guys are receiving, but
Right.
Yeah, they're being shuffled away there along with your luggage. Anyhow, where was I? So Mr. Thompson and Mr. Wentworth, you stand waiting with the 3 men from Miskatonic who have joined the expedition. Mr. Thaddeus Grunwald, who you are both acquainted with, looks as though he's going to be sick, his entire attention absorbed by the sight of the Mauritania. Nevertheless, formal introductions are made all around. The second man from Miskatonic U is Dr. Francis Morgan, head and only member of Miskatonic's archaeology department. He is a solid man in his 30s who appears a touch too rugged and tall for an academic. According to what you've heard, although you haven't met him yet until this moment, he's participated in digs in Egypt and as a result speaks broken Arabic. Also, he is an expert on the Abenaki people who once populated parts of New England. Furthermore, he's a member of the Arkham Gun Club and a decent horseman. The final member is Mr. Curtis Cooper, a freshman English major who writes for the Arkham Argus, the college paper. He is 19 years old but barely looks his age. The thick wool suit he is wearing is quite possibly his father's suit, as evidenced by its ill fit. He has an unfortunately large set of ears that you hope to God he grows into. Also, one of those newfangled portable Kodak cameras is slung around his neck, and he has already snapped a few pictures of the dock and ship. So here's Dr. Francis Morgan, your archaeologist that you arranged to go on the expedition from the Miskatonic. They don't have much of a department there. Like I said, he's the head of and the only member of the archaeology department. Here's young Thaddeus, looking a little green around the gills, and Curtis Cooper, AI generated.
I was telling Brandon that I didn't tell him the whole story because I figured that should go to you, but that the AI kept trying to take Jug-eared literally.
Yeah, it was like the top half of his head was like a jug, or it's more like a teapot kind of, but with handles and whatnot. I was like, what are you doing here?
The AI is getting creative. Well, that's a decent picture. That actually turned out pretty good.
Yeah, it took quite a bit of finagling to get the literal jug out of the image. Yeah, so you guys are standing around shaking hands. Unbeknownst to any of the people there, the tag for Mr. Thompson's luggage falls off and into the water. It's only there for the benefit of the viewer. And, that just sets up his absence for the game today. All right, so finally you're allowed to walk up the gangway to the upper deck where the ship officers in immaculate uniforms greet each of you as you board. They personally shake your hand. You each received your cabin assignments where the porters, that's how they match up to your luggage. It's quite striking to walk onto the promenade and the deck and then into the interior of the ship. It's like lavish wood paneling, ornate carpets, elegant chandeliers. Most passengers, though, opt to stay on the deck, waving goodbye to the crush of people that's out there on the dock, because it's always kind of an event. But in any case, the ship whistle hoots high and shrill, and the great mooring lines are pulled in, and you guys set sail. So within an hour of departing the harbor, let me switch you guys over to a world map. So these things make about 400 miles a day. So here from Boston, you would say get about that far in your first day's journey. Why did you not linger? Do you guys see that?
Oh,
Just
yeah.
put the thing up there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going from Boston all the way over there to London. Now for Charles Stanton's case, he's up here in Tangier, right on the Strait of Gibraltar. And you make it, like a little ways into the Mediterranean. So within an hour of departing, there's a commotion on the decks. You guys have just had enough time to see your room, which they really are lavish. I mean, it's not quite as much space as staying at a hotel, just, for practical concerns, but it is everything you could want more, probably more than you're used to, in effect, for Wentworth's background, unless you're hanging out with Andrews, in which case that might rub off on you a little bit just because of where he's going, But there's a crush of people all of a sudden on the deck, making a rush to the bars and smoking rooms. United States law only extends 3 miles from the U.S. shoreline, which means prohibition has effectively come to an end for you and the other passengers aboard the Mauritania.
All right, let's get tanked.
But when you're looking at this, Mr. Thompson has a cabin across from yours, and he's talking to one of these porters, because he was expecting some of his luggage to be in his room, and he's like, well, where is it? And they're like, we don't know, sir. Maybe you could come and identify which of the luggage was yours or something like that. So he kind of walks off to do something in a huff, leaving you to watch people streaming out of their cabins. Are you a drinker? Are you going to go join in on that stuff? Or?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Okay. So, it's just good-natured jostling in these rooms that are packed. If you had the image you see, the smoking rooms, try to evoke that air of a gentleman's club, pre-strippers, where just nice chairs and places to sit down. Women are not really seen in here. It would be unseemly for that to occur.
Yeah.
Carousing.
It just wouldn't be proper.
They have their own rooms called music rooms, but the men can go in the music rooms. But that's usually where they are having their get-togethers. Anyhow, words passed around as you're, trying to get a drink that Captain Rostron is the captain of the Mauritania, is going to give a speech to the first-class passengers within the hour. So the way these ship journeys will work is there are lots of activities you guys can do, or you could read, one of the books that you might have, such as Lord Stourton's books on IRM, whatever you want to do with each day. Some of the ideas I can give you are like fencing, skeet shooting, hanging out in the library, or the smoking rooms, or playing shuffleboard. So I guess what we'll do is we'll say, what do you want to do with your day? Every night there's a formal dinner for all the first-class passengers.
Yeah, I'll stay active, with I'll do the fencing and the skeet shooting.
Okay.
Sort of stuff.
All right.
Keep my skills sharp.
Okay, so did you want to attend the captain's speech?
Yes.
Well, there's not much to it. It proves to be a pretty dry speech. It has the rhythm of something well rehearsed and repeated a lot. The bulk of the message is about safety and procedure for emergency situations. It's been almost 10 years since the Titanic sank, but public fear about the disaster is still pretty high.
Yeah.
Despite the captain's apparent lack of enthusiasm during the demonstration, most folk are happy to hear it and give a small cheer at the end. Given that most passengers have been drinking for about an hour now, you expect they might cheer even if he said they would shortly be swallowed by a maelstrom. So after that's done, you have the time to do what you want to do. So you want to do some fencing?
Yeah, I'll do that sort of activity. Fencing and the skeet shooting. Computer use.
Computer. All right.
I mean, how long am I going to be on this?
7 days.
Okay.
Yeah, you basically pick like one of these for the day, and then you can do whatever else. But so yeah, you're just walking on the deck. I don't know. I suppose he's had a bunch of ocean travel, but it does get to be unsettling if it's your first time seeing like no land in sight soon enough. And just out on the open water. But anyhow, you see 2 men, fencing, right, with somebody coaching them. And one man seems to have the better ability over the other, and he shortly leaves in, what's the term for it? The error-appropriate term. Never mind. He leaves angry. And then this guy, a businessman by the look of his dress, he's like, any takers?
Yeah, I'll give it a shot.
Okay.
I'll bring my handgun.
He offers his hand and introduces himself as also a Mr. Thompson, Charles Thompson in this case.
No relation.
Well, I'll shake his hand and introduce myself.
Okay, give a credit rating or an appearance roll.
Failure.
You do not generally wear first-class clothes.
Right.
So he kind of looks you up and down, but he doesn't say anything right off the bat. He's just like, okay. And he hands you one of the little fencing swords, the foils, yeah.
All right.
Okay, so what is the base sword skill? Does anybody know that? Let me pull that up real quick.
Is it brawl for?
No, if it's a sword, it has its own actual skill.
Yeah, that's not listed by default.
I'll get it in just a sec.
Figured it'd be by sword type too, right? Or does it not go that in?
Probably not for this one, but I think 20%. Not bad. Anybody can swing a sword.
Yeah, that's like base running and jumping.
Yeah.
Swimming, climbing. Yeah. They figure it's probably been part of our cultural heritage so much. People can swing a sword. They know how to work it. If a machete, on the other hand, we're completely out of... That said, brawl starts at 25, right? So
yeah. All right, if you want to fill in fighting sword and put it at 20%.
Already done.
Okay.
That's one thing about me. I don't mess around.
That's true. You don't mess around, do you?
No, I get things done.
And what's your dex for Mr. Wentworth?
160.
160.
Incredible.
Spider-Man.
Okay. So yeah, you guys square up, and all you can do to look like you have actual fencing knowledge is to mimic how he might do it, or you can do it however you want. What does Wentworth do?
Yeah, no, he'll try to.
He has some sort of balance pose.
Yeah, he'll try to mimic what he's doing.
Okay. So he makes a few, probing lunges at you. Nothing that you even have to worry about deflecting. He's just seeing what you're going to do. But you actually have the drop on him, so you could make some attack or some maneuver with you. Like, what would you want to do? Try to imagine. And he's kind of got like that, that thing that they do almost looks like a dancer's pose initially.
Yeah.
And he's just lunging at you.
Doing
What kind of
pokes.
attack would you do? Disarm him?
No, I'd
Slash his throat?
try to poke him in the face with it.
And you were fitted with,
Yeah.
in this case, they just put sort of like a smock over your shoulders and stuff. And you just have an agreement not to go too hard in
Okay.
other ways. And then you have the mask.
Yeah.
So you're just going to try to stab at him?
Yeah, I mean, that's the pointy end goes into the other man.
Yes.
Right? So
All right, go ahead and roll your...
Nice.
hard success.
Wentworth, you do this quite often. In this case, he is going to try to do a fighting maneuver just to have your momentum throw you off balance and put him in an advantageous position next time, okay?
Okay.
So he'll do that. What's your size?
50?
Okay. So you guys,
60. 60.
you guys are even there.
Hmm.
You got the hard success, though.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, he was trying to be a little too fancy.
Yep.
And you just have some natural reflexes, so you just adjusted the point of your foil and
Yeah.
popped it right into his chest, and he's like, "Ah, you got me. Well played."
Double or nothing.
But you can see it makes him a little angry.
Yeah.
I think he thinks somebody from third class snuck up to the deck and
Right,
just made a
yeah.
fool of him.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Well, I think that will be it for today. Thanks for humoring me."
Yeah.
And he leaves in his own little tiff.
Ha. I'm the champion.
Make sure you check your sword skill.
I'll start wildly.
Swing. I will be taking that back, sir. Those are my swords.
All like
No, to the winner goes the spoils.
throw it over the.
If you love it so much, go get it.
And then pick him up and throw him
I'm
off.
in first class. Yeah. Yeah.
Darth Vader throw him off the side too.
But as you're walking around seeing the other things that are going on, the people playing shuffleboard and what have you, one of the ship officers does come up and ask to see your ticket, sir.
Yeah, I'll show it to him.
Okay. He's like, "Very good, sir."
It's because of how I'm dressed, isn't it?
We had reports of somebody from steerage being up here.
Is there anywhere on the ship I can purchase some more fitting attire?
Yes, there is a tailor.
I'll go visit the tailor.
Okay. Yeah. That would take probably the rest of your afternoon for
Yeah.
fitting and getting the suit made.
Yeah, and
Okay.
I need a nice hat.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta have a nice hat.
Cue the 1920s version of, what is it, Well-Dressed Man? Or I forget.
Sharp dress.
Sharp Dressed Man, yeah.
What's your daily spending limit?
12,000.
Got that Dr. Andrews money.
Whatever Dr. Andrews gives.
I'm just wondering if the cost of a suit would be absorbed by what you spend in a day, or if you would have to go. I mean, it probably would. Let's see.
Let's see, where is it? 10. My daily is my spending level without dipping into.
Yeah.
But really, I mean, this is part of the expedition.
Yeah.
It's a write-off.
Yeah, it's a write-off.
Well, this guy, you can find something for around, say, like $15, which would be at the low end on the ship here. But he's trying to point you to fabrics and stuff that would take the suit up to 100
Yeah.
plus, right? So it depends on where you want to.
No,
Oh,
just
fancy.
good enough to not look totally out of
Okay.
place.
Like you can slide in there, but you're
Yeah.
not going to be the man of the hour,
Right.
so to speak.
Yeah, I don't want to have to be showing my ticket to every.
Right. All right. So, the name of your ship, Mr. Stanton, is the SS Osterley, and I described it as a 4-funnel one. It's actually smaller than that, but we'll stick with the 4-funnel one. And on that first day, you're aboard the deck there. You can see the whitewashed buildings that smatter the hilly terrain of Tangier shrink as the great ship skims through the water at a good clip, clip. And you have a similar setup as Mr. Wentworth here, is where you can engage in activities if you'd like, or you could drink in your deck. Now, I believe you came in at second class,
I thought me and
or did you come in at first?
I forget how much was it first.
30 for a 30 a day for first.
Yeah, I came in second.
Okay.
Me and bought ticket for me and my second. So, and then everyone else came in and steerage or.
So the main difference is with second classes, you don't go to like the formal dinners. They you actually eat in the same kit or dining area that third class does. That's just at different times, and there's usually more third class ticket holders than second class, so you have a lot more elbow room during your time, and it's still like a fine affair. It's the better food they serve you too with your second class ticket. Whereas, and also you can go up to the promenade and the top deck without too much trouble. Whereas steerage usually has to stay on the outside decks at the lower levels, and otherwise they get shooed off. Back downstairs with you. Back to feed the engines. So yeah, anyhow, if you want to engage in these activities, if you have the same facilities, open libraries, smoking rooms, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I'd say Stanton probably finds himself at home, either in the smoking room or shooting skeet off the deck.
All right, you want to do skeet first?
Yeah, take some shots.
Okay, in this case, they have a few guns out there that are being used, and different people are taking. They seem to know each other. This group of men that are, but that people that walk by, they're obliging them to taking shots. So go ahead and give me your rifle shotgun roll. See how well you do.
Yeah, I figure I'm dressed well too.
Yeah,
we can take it out of my assets that haven't been.
Well, why don't you just give me a credit rating roll?
All right, possessions. I was like, no credit rating skill, right?
Or what is it? You might not even have to roll.
74.
Yeah, you can't really, like, even when you buy things that are meant for outdoors, they usually begin in a quality state,
Yeah.
So
yeah, I'll hand my coat, my overcoat to my Ibrahim, and care if I have a go at it.
Oh yeah, come along.
It's been some time since I've handled this model. Stanton, by the way.
Oh yes, right. What was the name? Captain Robert Anderson.
Captain.
He says, not of this ship, sir. He has a British accent. He's a retired Navy.
Ah.
And he's like, give the word.
Whenever you are ready.
All right. So yeah, they shoot out the little clay skeet, and you take your shot, and it very satisfactorily breaks into a bunch of different pieces.
How many can you launch at a time?
They have 3 of those machines out there.
Then all 3 will have to do.
All right. So we'll do it.
I already got the check. We don't need to roll if you don't want it.
Well, we could see if you could do it. We'll just see what level of success you get, and it'll determine if you get all 3.
So is this penalty?
Oh, don't do the penalty.
Oh.
We'll say it's extreme to get all 3, and then
okay. Got it.
Nice. Oh, you're terrifying with that shotgun there.
A big game hunter, Stanton Expeditions. You have to be fairly good when you're eye to eye with a charging rhino or rampaging elephant.
Yeah, Stanton. I think I've heard that name back home. And he kind of recollects some past expedition of yours that, like, his cousin was a part of.
Okay,
but it was
hunting expedition.
Yeah, because you'll have some that are a little like below the level, and you don't really want to talk about in polite company. But what pays the bills at the end of the day is some rich person who just wants a nice, cushy guided tour and kill himself a elephant or something like that.
Yeah,
right?
something to take home or have pictures to show.
Yeah, he says, my cousin, I think you guys in the Sudan took him. Do you recall? It would have been 5 years ago, I think. And you do have a memory of it, although...
Yes, what is it? I'm going to just make some stuff up. Younger man, sharp-eyed, good on the trigger pull.
Yeah, if he can quit chasing girls, that is, I think he'll be...
Well, thankfully for him, there's little in the way of skirts to be chased out in that part of the Sudan.
True enough, true enough. Will you be making the dinner tonight, Mr. Stanton?
Unfortunately, I'm transporting much of my expedition, so I am not invited to the formal dinner, but I will be frequenting the smoking rooms.
I see. Well, I shall see you there later.
Well, shake his hand.
Okay.
Pleasure shooting with you, sir.
All right. So yeah, that's how it goes. You go into the smoking room after dinner's served. Of course, you have yours below deck with the rest of the second class people, and then you head to the smoking room, which he's there with a smattering of other people, and he introduces you to a Dr. Jean-Pierre Duval, a French marine biologist, and Dr. Ahmed Khalil, who's an Egyptian historian, and they're speaking about, random subjects. In this case, they're talking about the Bolshevik Revolution and the outcome of that and how things are going for some of their friends in Russia. And their friends would be the class that's being killed in mass. Yeah. And it's just a dreadful situation for them. But you don't have very much time to get into the flow of conversation before Ibrahim ducks into the smoking room and he's like, boss, we got a problem.
I'll, excuse me.
They throw it away, you away.
Oh.
He's like, Marco and Ray are in the brig. I don't know the whole thing. According to the officer, there was a fight in steerage. Looks like they bruised up some boys pretty bad, but they said my name to the ship officer, so I'm coming to you.
All right. Let's go see what we can do about this.
Okay.
He didn't injure his hand, did he?
No, I think it was a little bit of a one-sided fight by the look of the other people.
Good. I don't want him to smirch my good name by losing to a bunch of steerage passengers. We'd have to throw him overboard.
Right.
All right, lead the way, Ibrahim.
All right, yeah, so he leads you down into where people in steerage are, close to the ship engines. You can hear them thrumming even louder. You can never really get away from it anywhere on the ship, but down here it can be, omnipresent. But you're led into the ship's brig, which they just have a room that has two separate barred off areas. And in one of them, you see Ray and Marco sitting, looking well. Ray is whistling some Irish folk tune to himself, just shooting glances at the other group. The other group looks like three young men, and they seem to have had a sound thrashing by the evidence of the purple swollen eye of one of them and bruises elsewhere on the others that are there. But the three that have been beaten are just looking very unhappy. And there you see the ship captain speaking to the officer on your arrival. And he kind of looks up and he's like, "Are you Mr. Stanton?"
I am indeed. And I'll offer my hand.
Right. And Captain Edgar Lucas, he says.
Pleasure, Captain Lucas.
And I'm to understand these men are in your employ?
They are indeed.
Well, according to these three men here, they were attacked over a game of cards. Surprise attack, according to them. For no reason that they can discern. Now, my plan here is to keep them in this cell until we reach Alexandria, and then I'll hand them over to the Egyptian authorities, unless you can tell me something different.
Well, the only thing I can vouch for is the fact that Mr. Flanagan over there, my Irish drunkard, does little by surprise, and so I suspect them to be lying of that. Am I getting the positions right?
Right, yeah.
He would not attack from ambush. He would probably warn you before he threw the first punch. That's just how he works. He can't keep his mouth shut, Captain.
Well, that may be, but I have very little time to sort this sort of thing out, and
I understand completely.
Three men's ward against two. It's just, I'd rather have somebody else handle it. We held the father of these three men. They're brothers, apparently. He should be here shortly. And on that word, a blustering, heavy-set looking fella comes into the room, and he, as soon as he opens his mouth, you can tell he's Russian. He's like, "What are my boys doing in there? Get them out of there now." And the captain's just like, I'm not doing that, sir. Who attacked my men? Who are you? And he looks at you.
Charles Stanton. I employ the 2 men that beat your boys bloody, apparently.
He says something in Russian to his boys, and there's like an exchange. Do you speak Russian at all? Either does Ibrahim.
I don't speak any language because it humanizes my my victims.
So, there's an exchange with his sons, apparently, in Russian. And this guy says, they say they jumped them in a game of cards. They were losing badly.
Well, I believe that they were losing, but jumping them, I don't believe. I most likely think that your boys are rats and cheats, if I'm being honest, but I'm not willing to press the issue.
His face turns a startling shade of purple. Captain, they would like to press charges on these men. Throw them overboard.
Keel-haul them.
He's like, we don't do that anymore.
Of course, I've already spoken to the captain, and he's said that he's going to hand them over to the authorities in Egypt. I believe I have a better chance than you do.
In Egypt, I don't think so. I have many contacts there.
I have a lot of contacts as well.
Maybe something could be arranged, Mr. Stanton.
Well, truth be known, I'm more than willing to leave them all in the brigs and let them think it out. But if you want your boys free, I'm willing to forgive and forget.
Well, let us go talk somewhere more peacefully.
Do I get the feeling I'm about to get jumped?
You don't know. The guy, just by looking at him, his wealth has made him soft, right? Now, that doesn't say anything about what got him to having that much money in the first place, but unlike you, he didn't kind of stay in shape and keep his edge, at least physically. So if he jumps you, you're not too worried about that. It's if he's got somebody else waiting in the wings.
I didn't know he was rich, so I probably would have curtailed some of that. But
yeah, so he's just like out on the deck, at the rail.
Yeah, lead the way. I see no reason why we can't be civil about this.
I make my boys ride in steerage so that they learn a lesson. I don't want to raise any new Bolsheviks. They ran me out of my country. Now I must sell around.
On that, we are in complete agreement. I make my boys ride in steerage so they can remember such lessons as well.
So, Mr. Stanton, you are a businessman?
Indeed I am. Stanton Expeditions. I think something like that. It changes every time.
Right. Radmir Vanya, he says, and gives you his hand. I was a farmer, but not anymore. They took my land. Bolsheviks. And he goes into a bunch of Russian cursing, you think. You can give your credit rating or appearance roll on this one, too, as he's kind of sizing you up.
Appearance, credit rating. Okay.
Yes, I see. So what kind of business are you in? Expeditions, you say?
Big game hunting, officially, anyway. Occasionally I dip my toes into some more of the nastier business.
I'm interested in that. Do you, like many Westerners, sell part of your company to interested buyers?
Yes, in fact, one of my main investors had an untimely passing not too long ago, and I'm coming up a bit short on that.
Well, perhaps I could overlook this insult on my sons for a small piece of the action, so to speak, as you British like to say.
Not British, my good friend.
Yeah, Westerners. One is as good as another.
Indeed we are. I feel that I'm willing to acquiesce. I'm game. I'll extend my hand again.
Okay, yeah, he shakes on it. And he's like, well, let us go draw up terms.
Agreed.
All right, so if you have a skill you think here that you can negotiate what you want back and forth, basically the price for him to buy shares in your company or an investment.
I do not have negotiation. Nor persuade.
Okay.
Might come down to I'm not educated either. Or intelligent. The skin of my teeth is how I made my business.
Right. Well, go ahead and give me an intelligence roll.
All right. No.
The money's good.
But he's like wanting like
You're not sure about what he wants in return, though.
yeah.
In fact, this is a different kind of dealing than... This would be so open-ended on his side of things that... Well, I mean, there's a chance you get the money, you never see him again, and that would be okay. But yeah, so even though you failed it, you can't make sense of what he's angling for, basically. Yeah. But you do get the distinct sense that it wouldn't be great.
Yeah, it also could be the type where he takes over and like burns it to the ground and pockets whatever's left.
You think your men can assault my sons? I destroy your company.
Well, Redmere? Mr. Vanya?
Yes.
I don't quite know what you're angling for there. I'm going to have to, unfortunately, back out on that. It's a little too open-ended for my taste. Always know what you're walking into.
Well, then I will just simply have to press charges when we reach the Egyptian port. Sorry to say, Mr. Stanton.
All's fair.
All right, so here's how it works, because you guys jump around and do this, so you don't need any specialized knowledge. You know that you have international law, but usually for crimes like assault or hire, they're just held in, or they're detained until they reach wherever they're going, and then they hand them over to those authorities. So you'll be dealing with Egyptian law.
Yeah. Do any of my people or myself potentially know anyone over in Egypt?
Yeah, almost certainly.
Okay. So I don't necessarily want the charges to disappear. I want my people to, or Finnegan to disappear from custody, essentially.
Okay.
Back into my...
Right. So like they'd be handed over and then they walk out, the next morning or
probably
something like
pay
that.
a small fee or a bribe.
Yeah. That could be arranged. I'll just have you roll your credit rating once again and just trying to avoid a fumble.
Alrighty.
Because it has been... Okay, you're good. Because you know that Egypt has recently come out of under more direct control from the British, and they have like their own independence. Of course, the British still keep a garrison there, and they do a few other things, but ostensibly they're now in the process of electing their own leaders and whatnot. So it has been a time of great change. So you can never be sure if the old bribes will work the same way. But in this case, you think the guys you knew were well established enough that they will have survived whatever changes occurred. So.
And this is better for Stanton's ego.
Yeah.
Because, just let the Redmere talk it up. Your men are going to be in trouble. But, where'd they go? Sorry, don't know. Rusky.
Well, I'm sorry we could not come to an agreement, Mr. Stanton. I wish you a good night.
And to you.
Nosfridanya. He goes off his own way. So he waddles off. He's a great big man. Not necessarily 100% fat. You can see there's
it's a layer of fat and muscle.
Right.
Farmer body. I'll turn to Ibrahim and be like, how much trouble do you think that man's going to be?
I don't know.
And how much trouble do you think it would be to just deal with him?
On the ship, it would almost certainly not escape anybody's notice.
You're no fun for him.
In Egyptian or in Alexandria, it's a different story, boss.
Well, perhaps we keep an eye on him and make sure that he doesn't cause any more trouble for us. And then we part ways, hopefully, in Egypt, with only a few bruises to tell of the tale.
You got it, boss. And he departs to do just that. And he's kind of an expert at that sort of thing. Although, he does stick out a little bit. But anyhow, so we'll, that kind of concludes your day one on the ship here. And we'll jump back.
That was was that the 5th?
The 7th. Yeah, so Tuesday.
Okay.
So we'll move us on to the Wednesday, the 8th. All right, Brandon. So your journey continues into the deep Atlantic. Dang it. So making some progress there.
Um,
So today is a clear, cold day. I mean, it is February. Usually by the time the sun's up, it's not like freezing temperatures anymore. And according to the ship itinerary, that there's to be lectures held in the ship library covering a range of topics. As usual, a formal dinner will be held, although food can be ordered to the cabins if you don't wish to attend. They didn't have the internet back then.
Yeah.
They couldn't just watch short videos.
I'll just go find a wall to throw a bouncy ball at.
Yeah.
Well, do they do like dances and stuff?
Yeah.
I want to try and charm a lovely lass.
You want? Okay.
See
All
if
right.
she'll keep me company on this long voyage. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Do you know what I mean by that?
I do know what you mean by that. Give me a luck roll as you. The best place to do this initially. There isn't a dance today. There is supposed to be one later on in the journey when you look over some of the events planned for after dinner. Basically, they plan an event every night after the formal dinner. There's a ball dance there. But you do know that the ladies are either out on the deck, although that becomes a pretty cold prospect most of the time. So the music rooms are packed with all the wealthy women on this journey. That or you could go mine the steerage for
Well, that's like the last resort.
a sturdy woman of...
I'll find one to sneak up to my room here. But that's a last resort. I want to go for these highborn ladies.
All right, so give me a luck roll.
Oh, I'll use luck.
Oh, close.
Okay.
You might not get a first class woman, but you might get a second class.
Yeah, they're all first class to me.
Except the ones in steerage.
Yeah.
How old is Wentworth?
Right, like 20, what did I say it was? 27, something like that.
Yeah, so you're a young man still. So they say
25.
that the woman you end up with noticed you before you ever noticed her.
Yeah, that's true.
That's what they say.
Yeah.
So when you walk into the music room, and you're not the only gentleman in there, it's both can attend. It's just predominantly women in here doing the sorts of activities that wealthy women might do, drinking tea and eating danishes and what have you. But one
Gossiping.
is sitting at like sort of a little bar there that overlooks the portholes on that side of the ship and the ocean. And there is quite a theatrical air about her in the sense that she is, giving off this, I'm so dreadfully bored and put upon and nobody's entertaining me type of thing. Whether she was doing that before you looked at her, we'll figure out with a spot hidden.
Extreme success.
You're nobody's fool.
She's putting on airs.
Yeah,
I
you
don't care.
had looked around the room and she had not been looking that way. She had just been drinking, her morning cocktail or whatever. And but when she saw you enter, a young strapping man, she immediately put on that air and is also sort of darting furtive glances at you to see if you see that there's a lady in distress, in need of entertainment.
Yep.
She is older,
Good. That's how I like them.
You wouldn't say she's exactly attractive.
Also how I like them.
Maybe ever in her life was she attractive. The one that does catch your eye as far as physical looks go is a young woman who's the center of attention for three older women. But this woman does not seem to notice you at all and is also engaged in conversation. So what's your move here, Mr.
She's not my
Wentworth?
type anyway.
Easy. That's his type.
Yeah, I'll go talk to the one that likes me.
It is at that time that young Mr. Wentworth must decide whether he was the hunter or the hunted. Left confused, he approaches his prey.
All right, credit rating or appearance? Let's see what she thinks when she...
Does he get a bonus for having $100,000 about him?
Just $12,000 in his pocket.
Oh, failure. I guess I should use my
Why
credit.
didn't it come up for me?
94 over 40.
Okay. Well, you're your suit is to be finished at the tailor's this morning, and so you're stuck in your rags. But she's so bored that besides a slight wrinkling of her nose when she looks you head to toe, she puts on a smile of expectation as you approach.
And just like that, the cougar has its prey.
Yeah, I'll approach her and say, "What's up?"
How you doing?
No, but I'll like take off my hat and I'll just start making conversation with her. I'll try my charm,
Okay, go ahead.
which is only a 15.
But you've been doing
I was hoping. Like, so really, I do go up to her and I'm like, "Huh."
This is all they got.
You'll do. And
You want to sneak off someplace?
at that moment, they realized they were both thinking the same thing. Well, you make your introductions, stumbling a little bit, but not really in a way that you judge as a stumble. It's just, you're a little bit more rustic because of your life and experience. You're not used to the airs of rich people. And so when she responds, you pick up that she's British, and she introduces herself as Lady Margaret Waverley.
Ooh, a lady. Well, I'll do like a bow.
Oh, no, don't do that. I was so pleased to be away from that while I was in America. All that bowing and scraping, it gets so exhausting. So what are you doing traveling to Britain?
Yeah, so I'll tell her what I'm doing.
Going on next.
As grand as like it.
Okay.
Like we're going deep into the deadliest desert of death.
You can try, if you're going to go on like a deep, longer explanation, you can try a different social skill. Like that would fit into persuade if you're better at that.
You can also play the angle of like essentially the "I'm going to war tomorrow, baby"
right
type. I might not make it back.
Well, I'm not actually better at persuade.
No. Well, you don't have to try anything. You just go on a long-winded
Can
explanation.
he use his credit score as a social skill?
That's
I mean,
not very good either.
In a sense, that becomes important. Yeah, but
no, I have none of the skills. I'm just
so, and it's at this moment that Lady Waverly begins to regret her decision, because now we've recreated the meme of you just telling her all this stuff, and she's got her drink. Like, oh my god. She listens with apparent fascination in your story, but by the end of it, she just completely changes the subject. And she's like, well, that sounds positively dreadful, Mr. Wentworth.
No, you have no idea. So basically, this guy named Lord Stourton, who I think is from your
Name drop.
neck of the woods, he's hired us to take on this expedition to find this lost city. So
Yes, Lord Stourton.
for a lot of people, it'll be dangerous, but this is exactly the sort of thing I'm made. Like, you could even say that my character was designed for
Specifically
such an
for this thing.
expedition. Yeah.
So tell me, young Mr. Wentworth, why are you doing such a dangerous thing? Are you trying to seek your fortune?
No, I mean, that'd be okay, but basically my benefactor asked me to do it.
I see.
And
Here at the request of somebody else.
yeah,
then.
you could say I'm a soldier of fortune.
And are you with anyone?
Lots of people.
I've hired some people.
The good old water boy skit starts.
I mean, do you have a companion here? Somebody to go to dinner with?
No.
Would you so kindly take me to dinner tonight?
If you do me the honor of allowing me to escort you to the dinner, I would be much honored.
Oh, you are so charming.
Yeah.
So from that point on, she launches into a long-winded explanation of the ins and outs of her life, which she is not even, she's not even like in Parliament or anything like that, like Lord Stourton would be. She's just, the heiress to an old title that doesn't really mean much to you. But yeah, she repays the favor of a long-winded explanation of the ins and outs of her life. And you discover over the course of the conversation that she's quite catty. And she says, she, gives a sniff at the young woman that's the attention of 3 older women, that Isabella, such a hussy. A young actress, he says, from Broadway, but I don't see it.
The only acting she does is in a producer's bedroom.
Oh, I hadn't even noticed her.
And yeah, she tells you some more unsavory things about some of the other, like one of the older women, that's Eleanor. She's a philanthropist. Such a bore.
Mm.
You know, that kind of stuff.
Helping people.
You just realize that there is nothing of substance to this person.
That's just how I like them.
Make a sanity roll. He's so vapid, it actually drains your sanity. Oh,
You'd rather claw your eyes out.
All right. So she will talk your ear off the entire time until this dinner, unless you want to extract yourself, Brandon.
Yeah. I got to pick up my suit.
Okay.
I got to go do some other things. It's a pleasure to meet you, and I'll pick you up for dinner at the time appointed.
All right. She says very well, and she goes about her way. There was a tense moment when you guys part, where she was prepping herself, but I don't know if Wentworth has the courage to take it.
Oh, the courage, yeah, but if you
The knowledge,
notice
right.
that that's what she was doing, you probably think she's about to throw a punch or something. Like, what's your problem? You don't want to take this outside?
What are you looking at me like that for? Yeah, so you head off to go grab your suit, and we, the audience, see a very disappointed Lady Margaret Waverly go back to her cabin.
Oh, she's disappointed. I would have done much better down in steerage, honestly. I mean, I know they at least got checked for lice. And
All you need is a quarter. That's the cleanest women that are on the ships.
These rich women, they got lice too.
They don't get checked.
They don't get checked.
yeah.
Them ones down steerage, they got powdered and doused and everything. Kerosene bath. They smell it all pretty. You can't smoke around them though.
Yeah.
So your suit comes out to your specifications. What are you? Do you have anything a specific detail in your mind when you imagine it, Mr. Wentworth?
No, whatever's in style, but
Right.
I want to have a secret pocket.
Okay.
In the jacket.
Is that where you put your gun?
Yeah. Well, actually, I'd probably have my knife in there. Yeah.
Well, like most people who aren't accustomed to wearing fine clothes, it feels a little foolish to do so, especially since you had it tailored for these formal dinners. So in this era, that includes things like the tails on the
tails.
coat. So
Yeah.
you're in the full-on penguin suit type of thing. But you can't help but notice how sharp you look
Right.
in your reflection.
Increases my appearance by 40, I'd say.
It does give bonuses to that. So what? You'll quit being harassed by ship officers.
Yeah.
So what's next on the agenda for Mr. Wentworth?
Well, I do want to do the skeet shooting if they're doing that. Practice my shotgunning.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead and roll your shotgun. In this case, there's another Dr. Edward Kingsley, older doctor, out here shooting skeet.
Well, failed. It's the movement of the boat. I'm not used to.
Oh boy, you got to account for that. Try again.
So close. Nice.
There you go. All right.
I got it figured now.
All right. So after the skeet shooting, they do their dinners about like 5 here,
Yeah.
unless you were wanting to attend the lecture.
What's it about?
Various topics.
No.
You do see like Thaddeus and some of the others heading towards the library.
Yeah, I'll tell him. Tell me what
Give me the short,
what it's about.
the
yeah.
cliff notes. You see Mr. Thompson that day has his luggage finally sorted out and brought up to his room. Although it turns out on second thought he didn't, because it was a piece that looked exactly like another passenger's. So he has to head back down to the hold and
This poor guy.
find out what's going on there. All right. So we'll pause here and jump over to Staten as he begins his day 2 voyage.
How many days is mine? Is it the same? Or
3 or
less?
4.
3 or 4. Yeah.
We'll see when we measure it out here. Let's see where we're at. Trains go between 500 and 600 miles in a day, so they're a touch faster.
Mm.
But, there's no trains over the Mediterranean.
Well, that's because
Not
I'm
yet.
not in charge.
Right. There would be. Yeah, you're like there. Then do about there. So you're heading. So for your second day.
What does that see? Is that past Rome?
Yeah, just the southern part of Italy. You pass. You're mostly surrounded by the endless expanse of the Mediterranean until around noon of that day, and then you pass by what is called the Balearic Islands, which are just some Spanish-owned islands with a few quaint coastal towns on them. Or you've taken a vacation there with your wife one time. Rugged terrain, otherwise. For today, as far as the events on the itinerary, there's a movie screening after dinner that all first and second class passengers can go to.
Why would I go see some?
Yeah, The Three Musketeers starring Douglas Fairbanks. You don't go in for actors.
No, a bunch of posh, soft men
trying to appear
around.
Rugged. Yeah. But according to reports from Ibrahim, Ray and Marco are doing well in the brig. They are certainly making their companions down there incensed, but they can no longer fight each other because of the bars.
I would also like to grease some palms and see that they get fed somewhat decently while they're in there, not brig food at the very least.
Yeah, you can deduct whatever you want from your
figure $2
your cash, and it'll probably work because that goes a long ways, and they'll be thankful for it. So what are you looking to do today, Mr. Stanton?
Well, after a nice hearty breakfast, I'll probably just spend my days lounging in the drinking and smoking rooms.
Okay.
I don't want to get sloshed, but nice and buzzed.
Right.
And probably just tell some stories if people will listen, or maybe listen to whatever stories someone else has to tell. It's all essentially trying to rope in more wealthy business people,
right,
to want to take a hunting expedition. So
yeah, there you find Captain Robert Anderson again, retired British naval officer. It's pretty light this early in the morning. Some gentlemen like to make appearances that they don't drink and smoke until later on, but apparently not Mr. Anderson. And he says, where'd you disappear to, Mr. Stanton? I was sorry we couldn't have a conversation.
Some of my men apparently got in a fight over cards, and I had to go see to them.
Yes. Gambling does often lead to that.
It does indeed. The only problem I have with the whole ordeal is the other party claims that they ambushed them, which, knowing my men, ambush is not even a word he can pronounce. So,
not until he's really drunk.
Then his English becomes somewhat proper.
What was I supposed to do, boss? They were treated him.
Say it after me, Fannigan. 3.
Tree.
Throw him overboard.
And he says, yeah, well, all's well that ends well, I suppose.
Indeed, they can sit in the brig for a bit and cool off. From what my man tells me, it's probably worse on the ones that were beaten, because they have to put up with my man.
Do you expect any trouble when we reach the Egyptian port for your men?
I would hope not. Unfortunately, I know Egypt's in a bit of a kerfuffle, and I don't know if the people I knew are still in power. I was hoping to just disappear them. Discussing illegal activities and over drinks in the morning.
All right, so you have an option here to determine if he's going to like you, because he will ask you some questions about your work. So you can rely on one of the interpersonal skills, or you could use like a weapons skill for like a weapons knowledge, right? Because you were skeet shooting with him. So the course of conversation might get pulled off into, guns, things like that.
Yeah, like the only interpersonal skill I have is intimidation, which I don't want to use on him. I actually kind of like him, so I'll use guns, and if he's asking me what I do, I can be fairly truthful in some of that, which is, mercenary work when the expedition money isn't coming in
the off season when people are not inclined to travel under the full heat of the African sun or something like that.
And I think worst comes to worst, I can bring up the fact he's English Navy.
Yes.
Yeah, that I've guided some of not his people, but English military through some of the most dangerous parts of Africa in World War One.
Right.
Oh.
Another success. Okay. Yeah, so he's interested in what you're doing next, so I don't know what precisely you're...
Oh, okay. Well, I've been hired to guide an expedition into I always forget its name.
The Arabian Peninsula, right?
Yeah.
The Rubal Khali, or the Empty Quarter.
Into the Arabian Peninsula, into the Empty Quarter, southern part of the desert.
I see. Do you have any trouble bringing in your guns or anything to the port there?
I've never had any problems.
All right, so for the backstory, because you do this all the time, you always have those things arranged, right?
Yeah.
So, like, at least coming into North Africa, it's never a problem for you because that's where you do most of your work. So,
I've never had any problems, as I've always found proper paperwork gets the job done.
I see.
Oh, kind of.
I think I understand. Well, I'll be in Cairo for a bit before traveling further south. If you have any trouble with your men there, I do know a man in the British garrison there. I could give you his name if you wish.
I would absolutely be in your debt if you were to point me in a direction.
Yes, look up Captain Todd. He's right there in the garrison in Cairo. I think he still has some pull with people in port.
Is it a name I recognize?
No.
Okay.
No. Well, like there is some wisdom in avoiding dealing with the British generally, like like the British military for that sort of stuff. Because you're thinking of the 5 cases of Lee Enfields you have in the hold and your Vickers gun and stuff like that. While you might have it all cleared with the port authority there in Alexandria, sometimes they see themselves as above any of that. If you fall afoul of them. But yes, I believe he's the captain there at the garrison. Still, last we spoke.
Turbulent times in Egypt. Yeah, much of the Middle East and Africa as well.
Yes, but the mandates have been handed down by the League of Nations, so I'm sure it'll be sorted out quickly.
Yes, that's something I always say to myself. The League of Nations will sort all that out.
Yes.
Oh.
With the administrative skills there, it'll be an easy mess. Anyway, yeah. So you guys, he talks on, it goes to way of guns, and he's like, he gets into the particulars of, what do you use on the creatures in Africa? What's, what kind of weapon is best for taking down an elephant, and you know that precisely.
I use a custom-made large bore rifle with cartridges about the size of your hand,
Dear Lord. I never was much one for hunting, but perhaps I'll have to tap your services. Do you have a card or a flyer? When you pull your flyer out, it is the New England Museum of the Occult. What? Monroe.
That's when I realized I've never left the Curioso.
Right. I imagine you were probably more have a card or something.
Yeah, I'll pull out essentially a cigarette case, a larger cigarette case where I keep my cigarillos.
Okay.
And I'll have them in that as well. I'll offer him a cigarillo as well.
He's been smoking his pipe. He's like, no, thank you.
I switched.
I was liking you.
Oh, no. I switched to cigarillos while on expeditions because the pipe, too fragile. But back at home, I partake. Oh. I have a wide collection of Egyptian meerschaum, or not Egyptian, of African meerschaum.
Well, they have a few, they have some tobacco here if you're interested. I do have a spare pipe if you didn't bring your own. Perhaps you'll join me in that.
Gladly.
Yeah. So he pulls one out. He's got like in his coat pocket. He had a couple there, the one he's using and the one he gives you. And the smoking room has, like a humidor with a bunch of different cigar selection and rolled cigarettes and tobacco to be smoked.
Yeah, Stanton's not like Johann. He wouldn't actually have like extensive knowledge of any of that.
Of all that.
Yeah. He just knows that meerschaum is fancier and expensive.
Right. So yeah, you guys get into the finer points of hunting in Africa, of which he is actually very fascinated in. When you get into the story of it, he says that he is traveling to South Sudan and what he might expect there, and you can also regale him with that. You could roll your navigation if you want.
Alrighty, navigation. I'll, if I can, I'll give him kind of like local.
Right.
Like last time I was down there, which might be a while. I don't know how often I frequent the area or have men that frequent the area and bring back news. But
right.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of back and forth tribal conflict and what have you.
I did my best to alleviate the region of that, but
so you are just afraid that anything you tell him will be out of date by the time he gets there. But nonetheless, you tell him what you knew of it.
And then I'll tell him some hunting story.
Yeah.
I don't know what's local to the region myself, but...
Okay, we'll pause there and head back to Mr. Wentworth. All right, Brandon, so Mr. Wentworth is in the in-between time. You've got your new suit. You look pretty sharp. You have an appointment later on at this formal dinner with Lady Waverly. But in the meantime, there's a tap at your cabin door, and that proves to be... Shoot, I forgot his name. Dr. Francis Morgan, your archaeologist from the Miskatonic University.
Yes, doctor, please come in.
It's like, Mr. Wentworth, there's a little bit of uncertainty because you guys have really only communicated through a third party or via telegram when you were hired. He knows, I think, exactly where you're going, right?
Yeah.
At this point?
Yeah.
Because that was part of his return questions. He's like, well, what's the nature of the expedition? What are we doing? So yeah, he comes in and he has like a leather folder under his arm and a pretty thick book. It doesn't give you a bad feeling when you look at it, though. Not a mythos tomb.
Okay.
And he's like, I believe this is the first time we'll have the opportunity to speak, Mr. Wentworth, if you have the time. And he has like a more rustic American accent that you're more familiar with.
Of course, yes.
You might even sound like the same region that you were operating in somewhere in the southwestern United States.
Come on in, partner.
All right. Howdy do.
Have a sit.
This first class sure is a thing, ain't it?
Something else. I'll get him a Budweiser.
The king of beers.
King of beer.
Budweiser, you got any Busch Light around here? You sorry son of a gun. He's like, well, in the time before we left, since you contacted me, I did a little bit of research on this IRM. I had never heard of it before the day you sent me that telegram.
Yeah.
Or the day Thaddeus asked.
What have you discovered?
Well, not a lot, but you had mentioned this Lord Stourton had also said it could be Iram or Ubar. I did find a connection to Ubar that you might find interesting, but have you ever heard of Ptolemy? He was an ancient Alexandrian cartographer.
Can't say I have.
Well, he was alive 1st, 2nd century AD in the Roman province of Egypt, and he wrote 3 important treatises, right? But the main one that we're interested in is called the Geographica Hyphagesis, or the Geography, it's translated. It was just a guidebook on how to draw maps of the known Roman world. And later map makers were able to use Ptolemy's method to draw surprisingly accurate maps for the time, including longitudinal at least.
Is this how Antarctica shows up on maps that were drawn before it was ever discovered?
I can't speak to that. Ptolemy's maps.
Me neither, because I don't know about that.
They didn't include Antarctica. Like I said, it was just a known Roman world, but that's as far flung as Britain to, well into the steppe lands.
Yeah.
But anyhow, long story short, he drew details about 8,000 locations. It was the biggest database to survive from antiquity, and several of these locations are described to be in the Arabian Peninsula. And the most curious of these is called Omanum Emporium, but also Ubar, depending on, who's telling the tale, so to speak. But here, I'll show you the map. This is a Ptolemy map. It's a recreation. This would be from a medieval era cartographer made this from Ptolemy's works. And so You'll see right in the center, if you can read it, it's a little faded. Sorry about that. Nothing can be done. There's a marking for Omanum Emporium. Now, where that's located on the Ptolemy map, that's nothing but desert, right? So it's just a curiosity why there's nothing geographically or weather-wise that would have changed the landscape that we know of from Ptolemy's time to ours, you know?
Right.
But he describes it as a trading city, like a major trading city on the incense route to Rome, Damascus, Jerusalem. So the question remains, how can an inhospitable desert support such a place? Anyhow, they listed it as Omanum Emporium or Ubar. It's possible if this guy who knows where it's at, we can't get a hold of him or something, we might be able to guide ourselves from this. At least we'll have a longitudinal coordinate. So maybe you can pass it on to your navigator or whatnot.
Okay. That's excellent. Good work.
Well, thanks. Well, I mean, it was nice talking to you, Wentworth. I won't bother you anymore.
It's not a bother at all. As a matter of fact, since you're going to be on this, I'll give him the books.
Oh, on IRM?
Well, no, I guess I still need to read them.
Did you want to read them?
Yeah.
Okay. After your dinner tonight, maybe?
Yeah, so I'll tell him I've got these books, and as soon as I finish with them, I'll give them to you.
Okay. Can I look at it real quick?
Yeah.
Lord Stourton, huh? Can't say I've ever heard of him.
He's just some British lord.
Right.
But apparently he has undertaken this expedition before but failed.
Yes, I can imagine. I was never the guy who put things together, so I don't know how difficult that must be. But the desert travel I did in Africa was quite rigorous.
Yeah, it is very difficult. And I think this one will be for the record books.
Yes, a part of me is excited about that prospect.
I mean, just looking at the map, it seems to me that this is the largest continuous desert on planet Earth. Unless you count Antarctica.
Right. You spitting handout facts. Very nice. Well, I look forward to reading these. I'll let you get back to it. I don't know what to do amongst all this. This is not my class of people. How are you adjusting?
Oh, it's second nature.
Well, that's good. Maybe you can give me a few pointers another time.
I'm a little out of my depth as well. I find it best to just try to keep a low profile.
And if you're looking for company, stick to steerage.
Yeah.
Oh, I never did share that map with you. I just was explaining it. Sorry about that. There you go. Now you can look at it. That's what a Ptolemy map looks like. Because his treatise was just words with coordinates and like how to draw it.
Yeah.
And so a late Roman map maker drew something like this up without, actually going in country and mapping the Arabian Peninsula. So just kind of crazy what they were capable of so long ago,
Yeah.
And I can't ping it because it's an image, but if you look right in the middle of the peninsula, there's an Omanum Emporium dot. So you guys would be traveling down here from the southwestern part of the country over these mountains and then into the desert and then to the north. So
Okay.
now what he has on the edge here are just map coordinates, like if you were looking at a grid.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
But along with Ptolemy, because he has the geography from Ptolemy, which gives, some more coordinates. He says he might, along with your navigator, be able to find it if you don't meet this Professor Ahmed.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. All right. I'm glad I brought you along. You're dismissed.
Yes, sir. All right. So the moment comes. It's time for the formal dinner. Day 2 on the RMS Mauritania. And your date is Lady Margaret Waverley. So there's a whole pomp and circumstance to these things that you're not really used to at all, where, people kind of file in single file and they don't do like, and now introducing, Mr. Wentworth, some guy, or anything like that. There's no titles or announcements.
No herald.
But there does seem to be a moment where you make your entrance into it, and you can kind of gauge the person entering the room by the wave of reaction that goes across those who are seated, right? That sort of thing. So there's sort of a jockeying to be at the end to get like the biggest reaction from those who care about that sort of thing. But if you don't care about anything, you just enter whenever you do it.
Yeah, I don't care. I don't even know that it's a thing to care about.
Start blasting.
Nobody really reacts to you and Lady Waverly's entrance to her immense disappointment,
no.
you know, and you can see her mood drops 3 levels. And
Wow.
it's draining the energy out of you as you're walking. Does your cheek twitch like in real, like it did in real?
If she's going to be a sourpuss about this, I mean, I got dressed up.
You can barely make it to your table, and which is prearranged seating, and you gain 2 levels of despair. No, I'm just kidding. Not that part. But it has brought the mood from where it was prior, you know.
Yeah.
So,
Dying in the desert is better than sitting at this table.
Well, I'll hold her chair out for her, you know, and
Yeah.
do the gentlemanly, you know.
and she's like, "Oh, how kind of you!" But there's no heart in the courtesy, you know. And she picks up a glass there, and she's like, "Well, at least they have ice," and she's swirling it around, you know.
Yeah.
And she's down a step. What are you going to do to bring her out of this, Mr. Whitman?
Well, you know, that's a good question. I think I'll try to,
Ply her with booze.
you know, get her a drink, and I'll try my charm again.
Okay.
Excellent.
So you wave over a waiter, and you're like, "We need drink stat. Look at her.
The lady needs...
She's not going to make it. She's going to take the whole ship down with her."
Need like drinks and some Coke or
She
something.
needs some old English. Got any Mad Dog 2020?
He's like, "Right away, sir."
Mad Dog.
They're
on the
flush with it
rocks.
in steerage. I'll
Yeah.
just grab some from there.
That's Pruno.
Right.
I was looking at their little, because they're like bunked. It's like a prison cell, basically, in steerage. Yeah. Anyhow, so he fetches you some drinks. And when you get one downer, she does seem a little bit. And she's like, "So, come on, Mr. Whitworth, entertain me with a story. Something."
Okay. Yeah, so I'll tell her about, like,
Didn't know it was going to be so boring in here.
the times I've done fighting, I don't know, Indians maybe.
Yeah. Weren't you like fighting in Mexico?
I did do, yeah.
Did you look into that for your character's backstory? Do you know much about it?
Yeah. Well, there were a few times where the U.S. Army went down into Mexico chasing bandits and cattle rustlers, and so I did those.
Were you cavalry?
Yeah. Right.
Nice.
Just-
Was it like, I bet that was pretty rough. You're just like on your own, basically, or with your guys, but
yeah,
you're
because I was like a scout. So,
roughing it.
Yeah.
So you're up ahead.
And that's where I got all my desert experience.
Okay. Well, roll your desert for us. See if you can, your survival desert, see if you can regale her or convey the experience of being in the Mexican
He
desert.
probably looks as old as Stanton and being under all that sun. Nice.
Extreme success.
So, you know, being a subordinate, most of your career and, being a right-hand man to Mr. Andrews, or just being, a good, solid laborer, you understand what it is just to be looked over and have people not pay attention to you very much, or
Yeah.
maybe even hear the things that you say.
Right.
They just get the gist of it. And that's the experience you've had with Lady Waverly up to this point. But at this moment, something about what you're saying, captures her imagination.
Yeah.
And
Well, I know that the ladies spent all kinds of money on those dime store
right.
novels with the, where the lady would get abducted.
Noble
by the,
savage type
Yeah, the
stories.
savages
Yeah.
and stuff. So I could play it up a little about, how dangerous it was.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you capture the romance of it basically in a way that entertains her and boosts her mood up. And she says, "Were you very scared?"
Of course not.
Nice. And that is when you know you got her. She's smitten at the
Yeah.
end of this story, and your bravery that's apparent to all.
Well, if I want to like really give her the story, then I'll also like let my scarf slip a little so she can see my scar where I
Wasn't even scared when I was dangling.
I was hanged
Oh dear, what
by
is
Mexican bandits.
Hanged.
Left for dead.
How did you ever escape such a
Chewed through
predicament?
the ropes, and I made it back to my.
Knitted an
company.
umbrella out of his back hair.
Is that the true story of what happened?
No, like I was so to make the character, to leave open the possibility that I'd had some what do they call it?
Supernatural, like, experience.
Experience was like I was hanged and somehow I didn't die, and the rope broke and I went back to my,
With that role, does he have his section of the table?
Yeah, because you have assigned seating there. Yeah, that's a good point, Chris. So there were other people sitting there talking amongst themselves, but in the way that a good story does, all the conversation dead ends and everybody's attention turns to you. And then it's not only Lady Waverly asking you questions about, your experience, it's other people at the table.
Yeah.
So,
are any of those other people ladies that are prettier than?
well, you do see Eleanor Bryant, the supposed boring philanthropist, there. She's also an older lady. She's not you wouldn't say pretty, but she is, what's the term you would say? She's not bad to look at. She's just a nice looking older woman, not in a sexually attractive way, but she just has a pleasant face and demeanor, and she's there with a journalist by the name of Harold Green. And he kind of dominates the question asking at a certain point just by his profession. He's like, hey, say what, he's an American journalist, say what, give me some more details about that.
Yeah.
And who are you? And what are you doing?
Yeah, so
traveling to Britain, huh?
Yeah, I just thought I'd see the old country.
I can see that.
See if they had anybody need fighting over there.
Right.
Because of my bravery.
And
gotcha.
And what have you.
So, over the course of that conversation, you learn a few details. Like Harold Green, he specializes in history and travel. He writes travel logs, mostly for very much like the Abercrombie and Fitch catalog that you guys have, right?
Okay.
You go to him for the romanticized version. I'll
Yeah.
tell you what it's really like in Sudan.
And so he is actually interested in getting a few bits and pieces where he has the opportunity to take some notes if you're open to it.
Yeah.
Another fellow there is Samuel Clark, a retired sea captain, just a fishing boat, right? But he made an absurd amount of money by running a series of fishing boats, and now he just is retired, right?
Yeah, I wonder what was on those fishing boats. Right, during Prohibition.
And there's nothing about him that puts him as a first-class passenger besides his attire. It's like you took an old gnarled fisherman and put them in the penguin suit, so
Yeah.
he still has the 6-day growth of beard that he always keeps at a 6-day growth of gray beard,
Yeah.
and his face is just like a mass of lines.
He sounds like an old American pirate. Speaks with the accent, gruff as could be.
But mostly what you get from him is just a bit of respect at the end of your story. He doesn't
What was
ask
his name
much.
again?
Samuel Clark.
Okay.
And there is another man who has remained quiet, and he wears, unlike most of the penguin suits, his is mostly white besides a red tie, and he wears a broad-brimmed hat.
It's a devil. It's the devil. Don't talk.
And we'll close
Oh,
on
no.
that scene.
No.
What was the journalist's name again?
Yeah. Harold Green.
Harold Green.
So at your table was yourself, Lady Margaret Waverly, Eleanor Bryant, the philanthropist, Harold Green. This has been a Deathwatch production. Thank you for listening.